All right, in today's craft presentation, I'm going to be talking to you about building an emotional connection with readers in picture books. So the three things that we're going to be discussing today: what does it mean to build an emotional connection? Why is it important? And how can we implement this into our own writing? So we're going to start with number one. What does it mean to build an emotional connection? So building an emotional connection with the reader means more than simply getting them to see the words on the page. It's about getting your reader to feel them. This involves moving the words from your brain to your heart. Why is this important? Building an emotional connection with your readers is important because this will not only make your readers fall in love with your story, but with you as an author. When a reader develops a love for you as an author, they become part of your audience and supporters for future projects. So here are a few ways your audience can help you as an author. We as authors write because we're passionate about sharing stories, but writing is also a business, and businesses need money to survive. So spreading the word about your books is one way that your audience can do this. This could be word of mouth, recommending your books to friends and family, sharing on social media, reviewing your work for other readers. And then another way they can do this is by supporting you for the long haul. These are things like following your author journey, support during book launches, purchasing your books, and requesting your books be purchased by local libraries, schools, and bookstores. So now that we know what it means to build an emotional connection with readers and why it's important, we're going to jump into the how. That brings us to point 3, how to get from point A to point B. When moving from the brain to the heart, you have to ask yourself 2 important questions. Who is my audience, and why will they care? One way to get your audience to care is to relate to their world by using familiar circumstances, settings, or situations. Here are some examples. Is it a feeling they felt before? This could be sadness, fear, anger, etc. Is it a circumstance they faced or are currently facing, whether by choice or maybe it's something they don't have any control over, like moving to a new place or facing sickness? Is it a place they've been to? Maybe it's a beach vacation or camping. A great tip here is to use the 5 senses like taste, touch, hearing, sight, and smell. And then the last one on our list is maybe it's a familiar situation. Getting lost in an unfamiliar place or welcoming a new family member into the family. So the power of language, how to evoke feelings and connection with readers. How we relate messages makes all the difference. We've all probably heard the expression, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And this is very true. Now we're going to look at a few mentor text examples together, and I've collected a few of my favorites here. The first one is from the book I Am Quiet. So we see the sentence here, I see quiet nesting in the trees. This sentence is talking about the image of the birds quietly sitting in the tree. Now imagine that this sentence had said something like, birds are quietly sitting in a nest. Both sentences would convey the same thing, but which of the two draws you in? Our next example is from a book called I Lived Inside a Whale. We see the sentence here, I read about a blue whale. It is the largest animal on earth, with a heart so big that my dad could stand inside it. Now imagine this sentence had said, a whale's heart is taller than 5 feet. That would have delivered the same message and information, but by using the person's dad as a measuring device, it related directly to our main character and reader's world. A child might not be able to comprehend the meaning of 5 feet, but they can visualize their parent, and that gives them a relatable frame of reference to use that's easy for them to understand and connect with. Now we're going to analyze a mentor text together. The book is big. This is one of my favorites. So our opening says, once there was a girl with a big laugh and a big heart and very big dreams. So right off the bat, this is going to be relatable to anyone reading this story because we all started out as a baby. The language here is positive, hopeful, with a promise of something good to come. So our next spread here says, she learned her ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. She always said please and thank you, and even put away all her toys. At dinner, she ate all her food. What a big girl you are, the adults would say. And it was good. So we're getting to know our character and making those emotional connections a little bit further here in this spread. We have further character development. We get to see the baby steps progressing. We're on the journey with our main character. And here's where we find our shift in the story. The spread reads, until it wasn't. You're a big girl, aren't you? So here's the shift. Our problem was introduced. Being big is no longer associated with a good thing. Because we've journeyed with our main character and are emotionally invested, we're now affected by this problem too. So we have 3 instances where emotions are shown in the art and text here, and we're going to go through them one at a time. So illustration 1 on the left, we see a visual of our main character looking into a mirror and worrying about her appearance. And we also see an adult figure standing nearby, possibly influencing this opinion. The second illustration we have on the top right of the page, we see her sitting on Santa's lap, and the text reads, you're a big girl, aren't you? And it pairs really nicely with the illustration to show the inflection or tone of the text and what this is meaning. In illustration 3 in the bottom right corner, we see our main character standing in line with a group of peers. All of her peers are in a softer color, but she's in full bright color. So you want to ask yourself why. This is intentional. The art is a visual metaphor for showing how our main character is feeling. She's feeling like she is sticking out. So it's really powerful use of text and illustration pairing. Then we get to our next spread here, which is mostly just illustration. We have 4 illustrations here. You see how the swing breaks and the text, don't you think you're too big for that? So this is a pivotal point in our story where all of our beginning positives are now being turned upside down for our main character and for the reader who's been experiencing this journey too. This is very relatable for our reader. Using the illustration of outgrowing a swing is a powerful thing for a picture book. It's directly familiar to our audience's world. Additionally, using a swing is a much more powerful choice than using something like a pair of shoes or a jacket. So the question, why? A swing is something that you're going to find in a public place, which means that others can witness this happening as well, which adds to the sting of embarrassment. Versus if she had just tried on a jacket at home and it was too small, maybe she would have taken it off, but no one else would have been there to see that. So this is extra powerful. And it shows how the combination of both illustration and text can really support in lending to an emotional depth of the story. Okay, so now we get to our summary. The 3 main points that we went over, we want to remember are, what does it mean to build an emotional connection? Building an emotional connection with a reader means more than simply getting them to see the words on the page. It's about getting your reader to feel them. This involves moving the words from the brain to the heart. Why is this important? Building an emotional connection with your readers is important because this will not only make your readers fall in love with your story, but with you as an author. And when a reader develops a love for you as an author, they become part of your audience and supporters for future projects. And then, how can we implement this into our own writing? Think about who your audience is and why they will care. Then use familiar circumstances, settings, or situations and language to move your words from their brain to their hearts. And then the homework assignment that I have here is with the goal of implementing emotional connections in your writing. There are 2 different things you can do here. The first one is to pick 3 emotionally driven books and use them as mentor texts. Study how they added emotional depth in the story. Then ask yourself, what about this story really draws out my emotions? And what can I personally learn from this? And then the other assignment here would be to pick one of your work in progress manuscripts and try implementing what we just went over here today to add emotional layers to your manuscript. And then ask yourself, how can I add emotional layers using familiar circumstances, settings, situations, or language? And then if you're looking for some mentor text, I have this list of a few of my favorites. These are examples of stories that pack an emotional punch. A few of them we looked at briefly today. The one that we did delve into a little bit deeper was Big, but The Rock in My Throat, Out of a Jar, not little, perfectly imperfect Mira. And then we looked a little bit at I lived inside of a whale. So these are all really great examples and can really add to helping you to add emotional depth to your writing and connect with your readers.